Several new developments in South suburban Dalton today. First, the state comptroller has suspended some payments to the village because it has failed to follow the law by providing financial.
In Dalton, Illinois, a small town once brimming with promise, a dramatic saga has unfolded around a mayor who was once seen as a savior, but has since become the figurehead of the town's financial decline. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's fall from grace has captured the community's attention, as her actions and decisions spiral into chaos. Resembling a soap opera with twists and rising tensions, Henyard was initially hailed as a breath of fresh air, a leader who would bring Dalton to new heights. When she took office, the town was in decent financial shape, boasting a surplus in its general fund. However, cracks soon began to appear in her leadership, and her priorities shifted in ways that left the town reeling. Her controversial rise to power, following the sudden death of former Mayor Sutton, set the stage for what would become a tumultuous tenure. Henyard was appointed in a last-minute decision by the Board of Trustees, which would prove to be the beginning of a highly contentious period for Dalton from the outset. Henyard's approach to leadership was marked by swift, sweeping changes, many of which seemed focused more on consolidating her own power than improving the community. One of her first actions was firing long-time, loyal employees without explanation. Rumors swirled that she was settling old scores, intimidating potential challengers, or simply seeking to assert control. Over time, it became clear that Henyard's motives extended beyond administrative restructuring. Her decisions appeared calculated to build a personal empire, often at the expense of Dalton's well-being rather than addressing the town's struggles and focusing on enhancing public services. Henyard seemed more interested in inflating her own image. She even began referring to herself as the super mayor, a title more fitting for a fictional superhero than a real public official. Her lavish lifestyle soon became a glaring point of contention, as it seemed to blur the line between public service and self-indulgence. Henyard's spending habits raised alarms when reports surfaced that she was using taxpayer money to fund an extravagant lifestyle. She was seen enjoying lavish dinners and taking costly trips to places like Las Vegas, all funded by the people of Dalton. The most shocking revelation came when it was discovered that Henyard had spent $43,000 in a single day on Amazon, a figure that struck many as excessive, especially considering the town's average household income of only $244,000. Henyard's salary, reportedly a combined total of nearly $300,000, was far higher than that of Illinois' governor, further fueling public outrage. Residents were left in disbelief as their mayor, once seen as their champion, appeared to live a life of unparalleled luxury, while Dalton's financial stability deteriorated. The public's anger soon intensified as Henyard's spending habits, lack of accountability, and evasive behavior took center stage. Village meetings became increasingly chaotic, with concerned residents demanding answers. However, rather than engaging with the community, Henyard withdrew further. She began holding private meetings and even shut down public sessions when reporters were present, as if attempting to hide her actions from the public eye. But in a small town like Dalton, secrets rarely stay buried for long. Henyard's actions eventually caught the attention of more influential figures, and Dalton found itself at the heart of a high-profile investigation. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in to review the town's finances, and her preliminary findings painted a damning picture. The village's financial situation was in disarray, and Henyard's spending was deemed reckless and irresponsible. Her personal shopping habits, including the shocking $43,000 Amazon purchase, highlighted her negligence and mismanagement of public funds. As the investigation progressed, the community's trust in their mayor continued to erode, and Dalton was swept up in a scandal that transcended local drama. Henyard, once a symbol of hope for the town, had become the central figure in a tale of corruption, scandal, and disillusionment. The saga of her rise and fall serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of power and privilege when misused in the public eye. What was once a town on the brink of prosperity has been left grappling with the fallout from a leader who seemed more interested in building her own empire than serving the people who had placed their trust in her. The stakes in Dalton's unfolding drama are far higher than anything a soap opera could deliver, and the future of the town hangs in the balance.
Could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances while the township
Dalton, once a village celebrated for its promising trajectory, now finds itself grappling with an alarming financial downturn, which many attribute to the controversial tenure of its self-proclaimed super mayor, Tiffany Henyard. When Henyard assumed office in 2021, the village's general fund boasted a remarkable surplus of $5.6 million, a financial achievement that had long been a source of pride and optimism for residents. Fast forward to today, and that surplus has not just evaporated, but transformed into a staggering deficit of $3.65 million, leaving a trail of confusion, frustration, and unanswered questions. This dramatic $9.25 million shift in Dalton's finances has sparked widespread concern, as critics point to Henyard's leadership as the root cause of the fiscal mismanagement. Many residents and observers are left wondering how such a significant sum could have been spent without any corresponding benefits to the community. Infrastructure improvements, expanded services, or meaningful investments that would justify the depletion of funds have been noticeably absent. Instead, some allege that financial decisions were clouded by questionable priorities, poor planning, and a disturbing lack of transparency in governance. Under Henyard's leadership, the decline of Dalton's finances paints a troubling picture of leadership that appears far more focused on image than substantive, long-term outcomes. Promises of prosperity have been replaced by mounting debt and dwindling resources, and the once stable village now faces a financial crisis that threatens to unravel years of progress. The impact of this financial decline extends far beyond mere numbers on a balance sheet. The future of essential public services, which residents rely on daily, is now at risk. The possibility of budget cuts, layoffs, or restructuring looms large as Dalton scrambles to offset the burgeoning deficit. At the same time, taxpayers are bracing for the likely prospect of increased levies to help close the financial gap. The sudden collapse of Dalton's financial standing serves as a glaring example of how rapidly poor governance and fiscal mismanagement can erode years of stability. The situation also raises broader questions about accountability, oversight, and the risks of placing trust in leaders who may lack the vision or discipline required to navigate complex financial landscapes. As the village grapples with its deteriorating fiscal health, residents are left not only wondering where their money went, but how a seemingly stable future was allowed to crumble under Henyard's administration. The long-term effects of this financial turmoil are likely to be felt for years, as rebuilding both the village's finances and the community's confidence will require significant effort, time, and a recommitment to responsible leadership, one that prioritizes the welfare of all residents over personal interests. Henyard's tenure as mayor of Dalton, though not spanning decades, has already been marked by a dramatic and alarming financial downer that has thrust the village into turmoil. It didn't take long for her administration to begin making controversial decisions that set the stage for the village's rapid decline, a situation so dire that former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was enlisted to investigate the unfolding financial debacle. Central to this crisis are Henyard's alleged spending habits, which have not only drained village funds, but also raised serious concerns about the misuse of taxpayer dollars and a lack of fiscal accountability. Among the most talked about issues are Henyard's extravagant trips to Las Vegas, where she is alleged to have racked up thousands of dollars in expenses, all funded by taxpayers. These lavish vacations seemingly prioritize personal luxuries over the community's financial well-being, further fueling concerns about Henyard's ability to make sound financial decisions. Adding fuel to the fire are reports of her infamous Amazon shopping sprees, which shocked residents and critics alike with their excessiveness. One particularly jaw-dropping instance involved Henyard spending $33,000 in a single day on the online platform, an amount that most people could only dream of spending, let alone within the span of hours. Such excessive behavior has painted a picture of governance characterized by reckless financial management, where indulgence takes precedence over investments in Dalton's future. These lavish expenditures have come at a steep cost, as Dalton's financial reserves have been drained to dangerously low levels under Henyard's watch. What was once a solid surplus has now transformed into a staggering deficit, with critics arguing that Henyard's actions reflect a troubling disconnect from the responsibilities of public office. Her priorities appear misaligned with the pressing needs of the community, and the lack of meaningful justification for these excessive expenses only heightens the frustration among residents, who are left grappling with the consequences of declining municipal resources and the looming shadow of mounting debt. The extravagant spending and perceived disregard for fiscal discipline have also fueled broader concerns about the integrity of leadership and the effectiveness of checks and balances within Dalton's administration. For a mayor elected just a few short years ago and tasked with steering a financially sound village toward continued prosperity, the rapid deterioration of Dalton's finances under Henyard's leadership highlights the perils of mismanagement and unbridled authority. The fallout from her spending decisions extends far beyond financial spreadsheets and headlines. Residents now face the very real prospect of tax increases and cuts to essential services that had long been the bedrock of community stability. The traveling revelations and controversial spending decisions have left many questioning how an elected official could so quickly squander the trust and resources of a village entrusted to her care. This unraveling of Dalton's fiscal stability serves as both a cautionary tale and a stark reminder of the need for responsible, transparent, and community-focused governance. A leader must be accountable not only for their decisions, but also for the impact those decisions have on the lives of the people they serve. The case of Dalton illustrates the dangers of neglecting fiscal responsibility in favor of self-indulgence, and how such behavior can unravel the very fabric of a community. As the investigation into Henyard's financial actions continues, Dalton's future hangs in the balance. The village faces a long and difficult road ahead, one that will require rebuilding trust, restoring fiscal responsibility, and prioritizing the welfare of all its residents. The lessons learned from this financial crisis must serve as a constant reminder to communities everywhere about the importance of transparent leadership and the consequences of allowing power to go unchecked. For Dalton, the hope is that, through a recommitment to responsible governance, the village can one day recover and restore the prosperity that seemed so attainable just a few short years ago.
My heart that you are up here at this special meeting and not downstairs where we have big bingo.
Sometimes we get invoices, but those invoices lead to more questions, and sometimes we don't get questions, answers to those questions. And so it's not about clickbait, it's about just making sure that...
Before delving into Henyard's alleged misuse of funds, it's crucial to understand how she ascended to power in Dalton, a journey as controversial as her actions in office. Henyard didn't simply walk into the mayor's office. Her rise was anything but ordinary. Following the sudden passing of the previous mayor, the village of Dalton found itself in disarray. The board of trustees scrambled to appoint a replacement, but with no clear consensus, a last-minute decision thrust Henyard into the mayoral seat. This unexpected move shocked both the public and Henyard herself. Critics argue that the decision was born out of desperation rather than a thoughtful, strategic process, setting the stage for a turbulent administration. From the moment Henyard was sworn in, she appeared determined to make her mark. However, her early actions quickly drew concern and controversy. One of her first moves was a sweeping overhaul of Dalton's government, where long-standing employees, many of whom had loyally served under the previous administration, were abruptly fired without explanation. In rapid succession, 2 key officials were terminated, sparking speculation that Henyard was either settling old scores, asserting her dominance, or simply enforcing her vision for the village. The lack of transparency surrounding these decisions fueled unease in the community and raised questions about the stability of Dalton's leadership under her direction. Henyard's approach was characterized by swift, decisive actions that many perceived as heavy-handed. It painted a picture of an administration eager to consolidate power at the expense of collaboration and continuity. This early turmoil set the tone for what would become a leadership defined by allegations of financial mismanagement and a perceived focus on personal gain rather than public service. For a village already reeling from the loss of its previous mayor, Henyard's controversial start sowed division, leaving many residents and officials wary of what was to come. As Dalton's financial and organizational structures were tested, the village found itself on shaky ground, navigating the consequences of a leadership style that prioritized abrupt change over building trust and stability.
Is it the reason why you guys are not paying whatever that vendor is?
What was it for?
It was for church. That's what.
Henyard never provided a clear explanation for the abrupt firings of longtime village employees early in her tenure, a move that quickly fueled a storm of rumors and speculation. Some suggested she felt threatened by those with more experience in running Dalton, while others believed she aimed to eliminate anyone who might challenge her authority as she consolidated power. The cracks in her administration began to show as her priorities appeared to shift away from the needs of the village and more toward building her own image and control. Self-styling herself as the super mayor, a title more fitting for a comic book character than a public official, Henyard adopted an air of authority that felt increasingly detached from the realities faced by her constituents. While she publicly championed her leadership, behind the scenes, the reality painted a much darker picture. Reports soon emerged detailing Henyard's alleged misuse of taxpayer funds, including lavish dinners, extravagant trips, and even a private police detail. all seemingly aimed at serving her personal lifestyle rather than benefiting the community. Her taste for luxury didn't stop with work-related perks. It extended into her personal life. Henyard reportedly lived in extravagance, drawing a combined salary of nearly $300,000, a figure that eclipsed even the governor of Illinois, despite Dalton's average household income being just $24,000. This glaring disparity did not go unnoticed by residents, who grew increasingly incensed as stories about Henyard's spending habits continued to surface. Among the most shocking revelations was her penchant for Amazon shopping, with one particularly egregious instance involving a $43,000 splurge in a single day. The extravagance, coupled with Dalton's financial decline, enraged the community, fueling public outrage and demands for accountability. Residents began flooding village meetings, voicing their anger and calling for transparency. However, rather than addressing their concerns, Henyard seemed to dig in deeper. She began holding private meetings, limiting public engagement, and abruptly ending sessions whenever reporters arrived, actions that gave the impression she was trying to conceal her activities. But in a small town like Dalton, secrets are hard to keep, and whispers about financial impropriety quickly turned into an uproar. Matters reached a boiling point when former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, herself no stranger to controversy, was brought in to investigate Dalton's financial chaos. If there had been any hope that Henyard might come clean, it was swiftly dashed. Lightfoot's preliminary findings were damning, revealing that Dalton's finances were in a state of disarray and that Henyard's spending was out of control. Among Lightfoot's shocking disclosures was a staggering $43,000 Amazon shopping spree, emblematic of an administration seemingly focused more on indulgence than on governance for the people of Dalton, already struggling with limited resources, and a leader who appeared disconnected from their hardships. This revelation was a final straw for many residents. The fallout from Henyard's alleged actions left Dalton reeling, with trust in leadership severely eroded. The village now found itself struggling to find a path out of the financial and reputational mess left in her wake. Concerns about police overtime further compounded the situation, with some officers allegedly receiving more overtime pay than their actual salaries. Additionally, there were reports of Henyard's private police detail, which cost the village over $1 million, an expense with no clear justification for a town of Dalton's size. Even more alarming was the news that the village clerk, under orders from Henyard's administration, had allegedly been instructed not to comply with Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests. This was a clear violation of transparency laws and only served to fuel speculation that Henyard had something to hide as all of this unfolded. The people of Dalton were left wondering where their mayor had disappeared to. Henyard was nowhere to be found, refusing to comment on the mounting accusations against her. As if things couldn't get any worse, Henyard's closest allies began facing legal trouble of their own. The former deputy police chief, a staunch supporter of Henyard, was indicted on bankruptcy fraud charges. Despite being placed on administrative leave, Henyard attempted to reappoint him to his position. This move was met with outrage from the community and further eroded what little trust remained in her leadership. It was a blatant disregard for the law and a clear indication that Henyard was willing to go to any length to protect her inner circle. Unfortunately, we knew it was going to be a little messy, one resident commented, but it's just something we felt was important to be done, something that should be done. But, like I said, you have to have accountability at this point. The FBI had already taken notice. The rumors about Henyard's corruption had grown too loud to ignore, and federal investigators started looking into her actions. As the investigation progressed, more and more people came forward with stories that painted a troubling picture of Henyard's time in office. One business owner even claimed that Henyard had shut down his operation because he refused to pay her a $3,500 political contribution. This was a classic case of pay-to-play, and it became increasingly evident that Henyard's administration was more about personal enrichment than public service. As the investigation and public outrage continued to grow, protests erupted in Dalton, with people calling for Henyard's resignation. They labeled her the Dalton Dictator, a title that stuck as the scandals piled up. Even those who had initially backed her rise to power were now distancing themselves, realizing that their trust had been misplaced. And it wasn't just financial scandals. There were also personal ones. Henyard was accused of retaliating against a former employee who had reported an inappropriate incident during a work trip to Las Vegas. The details were murky, but the accusations were serious. Adding to the growing list of grievances against her, Henyard's response to all of this was predictably defiant. She denied all wrongdoing, claiming she was a victim of a smear campaign orchestrated by those who couldn't stand to see a black woman in power. However, the mounting evidence against her was undeniable, and her cries of victimhood were falling on deaf ears. Meanwhile, Lori Lightfoot's investigation continued, uncovering more questionable spending and financial irregularities. Unpaid bills mounted, and services began to fail as a result. The village was drowning in debt. The public's frustration was palpable, and soon rumors of a federal indictment started circulating. People speculated that Henyard would not face charges, but as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that she was increasingly on borrowed time. Despite everything, Henyard remained defiant, attending village meetings and frequently speaking into her renowned golden microphone as if she still had control. However, the truth was that her once loyal supporters were beginning to turn against her. Even her closest allies were starting to see the writing on the wall. The federal investigation was drawing near, and it appeared that Henyard would soon have to face the consequences of her actions. The drama in Dalton is far from over, but with each passing day, new revelations emerge, each more shocking than the last. The village, once full of promise, is now at the mercy of a leader who appears to have lost her way. While the residents of Dalton wait for justice to be served, they are left to pick up the pieces of a community that is being torn apart by greed, corruption, and betrayal. As the investigation continues, they hope for a new chapter, one where transparency, accountability, and true leadership can finally take root. But for now, all eyes are on Henyard. As Dalton's fate hangs in the balance, is Henyard's downfall inevitable, or could she somehow wriggle out of this mess? Only time will tell. Thank you for watching.